Oh, let me tell you something. Bustin' makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, comedian Eric Oligny.
Very excited to be here. Love this podcast.
You sound so excited.
Super excited.
So excited. I love movie podcasts. My name is Eric Oligny. I am in the Comedy Store basement, here to talk about a movie. I don't know why you hate this movie. Midnight Cowboy.
It was just trash. It was like they were trying too hard to be like... They were just trying way too hard to scare people or shock the mind, especially for the time it was made.
Okay. We'll get into it. This is what, for those of you who have not seen Midnight Cowboy, here's what you're in for. Midnight Cowboy is a 1969 American drama film based on the 1965 novel of the same name by James Leo Hurley. The film... Let's see. Oh, come on. Show me the fucking synopsis. Joe Buck, a young Texan working as a dishwasher, dresses in new cowboy clothing, packs a suitcase, and quits his job. He heads to New York City, hoping to succeed as a prostitute. He meets Enrico Salvatore Ratso Rizzo, a con man with a limp who takes 20 from him, and then they become friends. Basically, that's the plot of the movie.
Yeah, and by the way, the acting in it was awesome. It wasn't about the acting. Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman crushed it in the movie, but it was just so much. It was a bad plot. It was a bad everything.
I actually think that Jon Voight was not that great in this movie, but I do agree with you. I think Dustin Hoffman fucking nails it.
Yeah, he crushed it.
And so this movie was a Academy Award winner for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, first gay-related Best Picture winner, and the only X-rated film to ever win Best Picture.
Yeah, there was a lot of dong in that one.
Lots of dong.
Yeah,
there's lots of dudes who there's a whole sequence involving a young man who looks almost exactly like me blowing Jon Voight in a movie theater.
That was the only part of the movie that I was like, oh, I can get into this part.
See? Oh, there you go.
Jay Light blowing someone, I'm in.
That's all it takes. That's the career that I could have had. Like if I was born in the 60s, I could have definitely been that guy who was blowing Jon Voight in a movie theater.
I was born in the 80s and I still can be that guy.
What I'm saying is we need to remake Midnight Cowboy so I can finally get my shine, folks. All right.
Let's do it.
What's your deal with this movie? So okay.
I wanted to enjoy it and I couldn't.
When did you see it?
Probably about... See, I had heard my whole life, this movie's great, Midnight Cowboy. I'd always heard that, and HBO finally put it on their movies to watch for like 6 months ago. So like Academy Award movies you should watch. And I was like, oh, well, here it is. I can finally watch it. I'm going to finally sit down and watch this. And I'd even attempted all the things you should do when you're watching a movie that's supposed to be so good. I smoked a lot of weed. And I was like, this movie's going to be great. And it felt like a propaganda piece or like something where they were forcing stuff down your throat.
A propaganda piece in what sense? Like what is it propagandizing for in your mind?
I guess I used the wrong word. I might have used the wrong word there, but where it's shoving things down your throat where you feel like there wasn't necessary. It was like it was overly shocking in the time period it was made. It was like they were purposely being shocking in the movie. And I didn't find it to go with the plot of the movie.
Okay.
Like a lot of what was going on was a little too excessive for the movie. And like the character Rizzo was an awesome character.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like they did things with his character where I was like, well, where's this going? And I was thinking it was going somewhere completely different and then ended up going nowhere.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? I didn't like the way they went with the characters. Although I did like the characters. It was really weird.
Well, I mean, I think that speaks a lot to the direction of the movie. I think that this movie winning Best Director is very merited. And now, I watched this last night, okay? I had never seen it before. Now, I will say that I think that this movie is certainly ahead of its time. It came out in the late 60s, 69. If you look back at all the other movies that are nominated for Best Picture that year, it's a pretty... At the time, a list that seems pretty stock. You've got, sorry, I'm pulling that up right now. You've got, oh God, Anne of the Thousand Days. I've never heard of that movie. I don't know what that is. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a Western, classic Western. Hello, Dolly, classic musical. Z, classic political thriller. Midnight Cowboy is a movie that is hard to pin down in terms of a genre, right? Like, I think that what Midnight Cowboy does is basically make the most fucked up version of The Odd Couple possible.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
When you see the Jon Voight's character and Dustin Hoffman's character and what they're going through, that's the one part where you're actually tied down to the movie.
Right. When Dustin's little brother, Justin Hoffman.
He's the newest door guy here.
Justin Hoffman doesn't walk with a limp, totally normal dude, doesn't rape women. Hey, Dustin,
Good.
what you up to, buddy? Dustin Hoffman and Jon Voight together on screen in this movie, fantastic.
Yeah, they were.
I love every moment, really every moment that Dustin Hoffman is on screen in this movie, I think is great. And I'm really shocked that he didn't get nominated. He didn't win Best Actor for this movie in the year that it came out.
He definitely. I mean, he should have won something for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the role alone was great, but again, I thought the movie was shit.
I think comparatively to Jon Voight, who I'm going to disagree, and I don't like what he does in this movie. I think that the reason that you are, as a viewer, set to like Jon Voight as a character and sort of empathize with him is because of the directorial choices that John Schlesinger makes.
And he's very a George Bush character, where he's that kind of southern. You kind
he's
of
like a
him
southern
dumb
bumpkin.
Yeah,
He literally, I've never met a ton of people from outside of the South in California or Texas or not Texas. Texas is the South. No matter what anybody says, Texas is the South.
Texas is southern.
No matter what anyone else says. You're from Florida. I'm from Texas.
Yeah,
you know how it works.
people say Florida's not southern. I'm like, it's the fucking furthest most south you can get,
Dude, Florida is probably the most southern state possible.
It's crazy southern.
So, and Texas is incredibly southern too.
Yeah.
Texas is so southern. Texas has a Confederacy theme park in my hometown. All right, they do. They've got a whole Confederacy land. It's very, very tastefully done, surprisingly, but it is what it is.
Do you
It's
have
there.
to pick your own cotton candy?
Oh God! I'll tell you what. The Plantation animatronic show, not the best, but it's worth the bang for your buck. It's not. It's a character that I can't believe how dumb of a character he is.
Oh,
because
he's
he's
so
like,
dumb.
I thought I was gonna go be a hooker. I mean,
Yeah.
he says hustler the whole time. And immediately, like, I think that the most interesting part of the movie really starts to come into play when he is with the lady after he's doing a bunch of drugs at this party. And by the way, just like bogarting a joint the whole time, completely oblivious, not showing any kind of southern charm to like just bogart this joint and be like, nah, it's mine. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to look at all these pretty colors. And then the lady's like, oh, are you gay? I mean, it's cool if you are. Just like, you got to accept it, buddy. And then that moment when you realize that Dustin Hoffman has been pining after him as a gay man for the whole movie, that's the whole linchpin of the movie for me.
Yeah, and there was moments in the movie where you're like, this is kind of worth watching. Like, I'm watching it. There's a good reason I'm watching this.
Yeah.
But what I just found it like, it's basically like the new show on HBO where they're doing the New York. They're talking about the strippers in New York and the. What's it
the
called?
one with James Franco and he plays twins,
Yes,
right?
yeah, okay, so-
for the 42nd Street.
Yeah, so it has
Fucked up version.
it has that similar kind of undertone to it, but it feels like they were doing a lot of cocaine when they wrote this movie.
Right.
It's real scattered, and it feels like that's the new show on HBO. I don't remember the name right now.
I don't remember the name of it either. Honestly,
not
it's going to
vinyl.
get
It is. It's
going to
a
get
terrible
canceled
show.
after another
It's a terrible
season.
show.
There's no reason for us to remember the name of it.
But it felt like that was a newer age version of it.
Well, I agree with you on that, and I disagree on not liking it for that reason. I think that, again, this movie's ahead of its time. But now,
Very ahead of
watching it now, it definitely feels passé because we've seen all of this shit done since then and done better.
In a normal way.
And
yeah.
in a normal way.
Not all scattered around, which that movie was very scattered.
It's real artsy.
Yeah.
It's real artsy in 60s and drugs and all that
See,
fun
I was one of
shit.
those people, I didn't like Clockwork Orange. A lot of people love Clockwork Orange, and I'm like, this movie is too much.
I fell asleep during Clockwork
It's
Orange. I was too high. That's the
it's
thing.
too artsy. It's like, I don't want it to be you're trying too hard to be like, I don't know, artistic, I guess would be the term. You're trying to like I don't know. They're trying to do something that's not just making the movie. Like The Shining could have been a movie where they ruined it by trying to be too fancy and artsy, and they just made it simple, and it's one of the best movies of all time.
What's your go-to genre of movie? Is there a particular what would you say your favorite style? Horror movies? Okay,
hands down.
Explain to me like The Shining. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie of all time? That's a tough one. It's Goodfellas is up there. I mean, that's such a great, just so many great lines and even like comedies. There's some comedies that are up there with it.
Well, you know where they got the idea of using New York accents? That's from this movie, from Midnight Cowboy.
Did they really?
New York accents wouldn't be used in any movie ever.
Yeah,
if
that's
it weren't
it.
for Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy
and just Dustin Hoffman yelling, "I'm walking here,"
and it's singing in the rain.
Yep, dude, I am right there with you. Goodfellas is great. I think that Midnight Cowboys it's an interesting movie because it just doesn't feel like there's something about it watching now where I'm like, there's a disconnect, and it's really unfortunate that this movie doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I was with you on that.
Timeless classic. I wish that it would.
But the reason it doesn't hold up is because we're not shocked by what we're seeing because we're used to it. We
got
desensitized. And it's like what they were trying to portray as such a taboo thing is no longer a taboo thing.
Yeah.
It's just something normal in life, and I think that's where the movie gets really scattered too. It's like they're almost putting it in a way that people are shocked that they're going to see this.
And I think part of what makes this movie stand out still is that it does take a really seedy subject matter and gussies it up with all of these artistic filmmaking choices. Editing is really sharp and on point. There's a lot of really interesting editing moves, with all the flashbacks to when he and his girlfriend get raped by a pack of dudes in sand dunes.
Yeah.
I still don't really know what happened there, but that's
Again,
my best
very
guess.
Scattered.
All the stuff where he wants to fuck his grandma. And that's why he only fucks old women.
So weird.
It's so weird, but it's cool. I appreciate that he did that. But I do think that there's a line that can be drawn for artsiness for artsiness' sake. I went and saw 2001 this week because it's re-released. And that movie is artsy as fuck. It's probably the most mainstream art movie to ever be released by a major studio. Rewatching that, you see it's 2.5 hours long. There's a fucking intermission in the middle of it. There's all of this stuff that there's no plot for large chunks of the movie. The first 20 minutes are a silent film, essentially, involving warring tribes of monkeys. And the very last, 30 minutes of the movie is literally just an acid trip. It's just colors flashing at you and inverted screenshots and then shots of an eye. It's super artsy, but I think that is where the line comes and is drawn.
Yeah.
And then you get movies. Did you ever hear of this movie called A Ghost Story?
No.
Okay. A Ghost Story is one of my least favorite movies of all time.
Oh, so I should watch it right away.
You should watch it, and then you can shit on it because it's artsiness for artsiness' jerk off sake.
I really love shitty movies though. I love to watch shitty movies just to sit there and talk shit when they're on.
See, that's the thing. This isn't a movie that's shitty. This is a movie that is supposed to be really good, and it's trying hard to be really good. I think it takes what Midnight Cowboy does. I think Midnight Cowboy is definitely a little bit self-aware.
Oh, it definitely is.
It's very aware of itself and what it is doing as a movie.
You think about it, it had to be at that time
Yeah.
period. The balls on them, and that's where I love the movie. I see the thing I don't dislike about the movie, they had balls to release that in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even really start being open with the any gay communities or whatever until the early 80s.
Yeah.
And so they're doing
and even
it
then it was just
years.
because we can capitalize on AIDS. That's the only reason why we accepted gays then.
And, now we have Pride. Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride Month, guys. It's
By the way, this was perfect
is perfect
timing.
for Pride Month. Oh my God. I should have done all gay movies this whole month.
Pride.
There we go. Thank you so much. We're playing on the rainbow keyboard that's here in studio. I don't know if you'll be able to hear. There we go. Look at that flourish.
Yeah, but I think that movies like that are very important to move forward to get other movies. I believe that kind of movie created a movie like Scarface later on.
Yeah.
Because Scarface went out of bounds with a lot of things that people didn't want to see. Mm-hmm. And they brought the cocaine.
Taxi Driver too.
Taxi was great.
I think
that was perfectly made.
Right. But I think that movies like that owe a lot to Midnight Cowboy.
I agree completely. I hated the movie, but I agree that it definitely helped other movies get to break ground on other things, other subjects that they weren't able to.
Right. So why do you? I mean, you're kind of getting at it a little bit here, but like, what was your experience like watching this movie? Like you set up the scene. You're smoking a whole bunch of pot. You're ready for it. You're in it. You're good to go. You're like, this is one of those movies that the fucking television network's telling me I should see. And then what is your reaction as you're watching it and becoming more and more disappointed?
I guess when I first started the movie, I was really into it. I was really into the whole journey with Jon Voight's character going and getting to New York and finding out what is he doing. I didn't read about the movie before I watched it. I didn't want to know. I don't like to know about what the movie's about when I go into it. So I've heard of this movie my whole life. I never really knew it was about a gay dude or about gay prostitution. Had no clue. And I went into that. And I feel like that's how it's good to go into a movie like that. You want to be Usual Suspects was a movie I went into without knowing anything about. And ended up blowing my mind.
Right.
That's what I kind of wanted with Midnight Cowboy. And as it progressed, it got more disappointing as it went. And I was into it for the first probably 15 minutes. And I was really on board. And they had sold me. And then when they got to New York and a lot of the stuff started happening, it started getting real scattered and all over the place. And that's when I started losing the movie. There was just so much going on that I was just like, it kind of felt like John Cleese's Clockwise. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
No, I've never seen that movie. What's that
it's
about?
Another movie that I really want to like. It's John Cleese is the, head of a kids' school or whatever. I don't know what they call them in England. But anyways, I
think they still call them schools in
England.
No,
the people that run the schools, not deans.
Oh, like a headmaster.
A headmaster. Thank you. So Don, he's the headmaster at the school.
Okay.
And it's he does a bunch of debaucherous stuff. But the thing is the movie's like a real 80s movie where somebody was doing a lot of cocaine when they were making it, and there's too much going on in every scene.
So it's like Porky's but with John Cleese.
Yeah, and that's how I felt. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I felt with Midnight Cowboys. Like they were trying to put too much into this movie. They should have just dumbed it down a little bit.
I think, but would the movie have had that kind of impact if it had been dumbed down? Like if we're just seeing...
No, not at all. It needed to be an artsy movie.
This movie needed to be artsy and have its successes in order to be successful. Yeah. I think that the movie doesn't work if it's just, as much as I love it, if it's just Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman hanging out, that's not fun. You got to have Jon Voight fucking a lady in the penthouse and then like paying.
Oh yeah, that
God. This movie's so dark and funny in the weirdest ways. I really appreciated that for what it was, but it's just. I mean, I'm kind of with you. It feels like there's definitely a degree of it's being edgy for the sake of being edgy.
Yeah, and you feel it. You feel that while you're watching it, which it makes you feel dirty.
Right. And you can definitely, I think at the time, I'm having a hard time putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's seeing movies in the 60s, but I can imagine if this is like a mainstream movie to the point where it's getting nominated for Best Picture and a whole bunch of other Academy Awards, and it's got one of the most bankable stars of the time, Dustin Hoffman. The biggest thing he'd done at that point was The Graduate.
Yeah, and that was the number one film in the country. And especially at that time.
Exactly. You have Dustin Hoffman going from being like the sweet virginal boy who like fucks Mrs. Robinson to being just like a dirty cripple who's like falling downstairs and has consumption and is living in a condemned building. And that's real relatable stuff.
That's something that the director did that I really like is he made me feel like I was in New York at that time period. The dirtiness of it all. It felt like the set was dirty. It felt like the characters were extremely dirty.
It felt really unsafe.
Yeah, it felt like there was probably needles laying around on set at all times.
Probably was.
But it just felt that way, and I like that about the movie. Is I did feel that rustic. Well, I was nostalgic almost that I was in that time, and I like that. But again, driven away.
Edgy. It's the edginess for edginess' sake is really, I think, a part of the movie that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that gets aped, and you can see its influence on other movies. Like we talked about with Scarface and Taxi Driver and Goodfellas, and I think a lot of Scorsese work, actually. Frankly, now that we really get into it, but the way of being edgy just for the sake of being edgy is one of these tropes that it really irritates me in filmmaking.
It does in comedy too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're being edgy and not being funny, you're just trying to say something edgy and you don't really have a punchline for it.
Exactly.
And that's a lot. You see that a lot.
I think that this movie winds up with a point, But there's a lot of other times that if it had not included like a certain scene, like if it hadn't included, and now that and realizing it now, it's like a fucked up version of the Guardian, not the Guardian, of the Graduates bus ending scene with Dustin Hoffman on the bus.
Oh yeah.
If it hadn't included those moments of heart where it's like, oh well, he's gonna make it and he's gonna be fine, and he's telling Dustin Hoffman his dreams, and then he cut to Dustin Hoffman dead in a bus seat.
Yeah.
I think that is the kind of scene that gives this movie some levity and keeps it from just being like, oh man, this poor Texan boy has got to get his dick sucked in a movie theater to learn a lesson or two about life.
Yeah, and again, I thought that they had the right idea for the movie. They had the right things going. They just feel like they missed it somewhere. To me, not to everyone. Again, I love Josh Turner. He's a country singer. I don't have the best taste in the world. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe I'm wrong on this one.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're wrong on some aspects of it. I think it's interesting that you do. I'm gonna throw something out here. I don't think you really hate this movie. I think you're just disappointed by it.
Disappointed is because you wait so long. I'm 38 years old, so I've waited 37 years to watch this because you hear it your whole life,
right?
Probably since I was like, well, not my whole life because I'm not like 7 years old. My dad's like, you should check out this film about these two gay dudes fucking. Like, no, he's not going to be doing that, but
right?
At probably age 16 is when I started hearing about the movie, or 15, like right when I saw Scarface and all these other movies. And Taxi Driver was another one I saw really late in life. I saw that at 35.
I saw Taxi Driver a little last year,
and I was blown away how good it was. And it was one of those movies where I heard it my whole life, and I finally watched it, and it was great. And so you expect that kind of feeling going into it,
right? And
then you're just heavily disappointed.
But now we're in this portion in life in America now where people are going to be like, oh, two dudes fucking in New York in the 70s. Yeah, I'm definitely going to show my 7-year-old that because I'm a cool parent.
Yeah, and then that's
I am progressive at parenting. I feed my child oat milk in the morning. I am good at it. I don't know why this is turning into a weird Brody Stevens impression.
Apple cider vinegar and Lamictal.
I feed my children supplements. Yes,
how
you got it.
Dare you trash a movie with Jon Voight in it?
Jon Voight is a national treasure. His fringe jacket is in my closet right now.
Yeah.
I love him in Holes.
Oh, I just watched Holes recently. And
you just watched Holes?
I know. I've seen it before.
Oh, you'd seen it before.
But it's like one of those refreshers because I wanted to see because Shia LaBeouf, and I forgot he was in it. And it wasn't terrible.
Okay.
It's not great, but it's not terrible.
Alternate reality or same film reality. Jon Voight as Joe Buck grows up, gets out of Florida, moves to work in this camp in Texas, becomes the warden of Holes. True or false?
I think that's true.
I think that tracks.
It does, because you think about it, he's got to run from that seedy past, and where do you go? You go to Texas.
You go to Texas. Back home. He's from Texas.
Wasn't he in Tremors, too?
Jon Voight?
No, he wasn't in Tremors.
I think he might have been in Tremors.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've never seen Tremors.
Tremors was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, and I always thought these little worms would come out and get me out of the sidewalk. So it was one of those movies that really scared me as a kid.
I was scared by Brave Little Toaster as a kid.
Oh, I love the Brave Little Toaster. Come on, man. That's awesome.
Brave Little Toaster is a great movie, but that scene where there's a lot of terrifying moments in Brave Little Toaster. I was talking to listener Matthew Maloney about this week. The air conditioning exploding scene, horrifying. Phil Hartman blown up as the voice of an AC.
I didn't realize he was.
Yeah, it was Phil Hartman.
Oh, wow.
Doing that voice. Yeah. R.I.P. The scene where they're in the workshop and all of the cobbled together things are like singing songs. There's somebody doing like a Joan Rivers impression, and I was like, that's weird and terrifying. And then at the very end, when they're in the graveyard and the electromagnet is like lifting and crushing cars, and the owner almost gets crushed to death. God,
so terrifying.
Dark.
Yeah, you know, I was fooled by that. Like Bridges of Terabithia.
Bridge of Terabithia, yeah.
That movie fooled the shit out of me. I was like, this is going to be the most heartwarming little kids film, and it's fucking dark.
Dude, I never seen the movie, but I've read the book.
It was good.
The book fucking killed me on the inside.
The movie was extremely good, actually. I was like, whoa.
You know, there's one, I think there's a lot of stuff that, like, if we started showing movies like Midnight Cowboy to kids, I don't think it would be that detrimental to them.
No.
Like, you could cut out a lot of the parts of this
with
movie.
The dick.
You know where they have, a lot of the dick that you can.
There's a lot of dick in this movie.
There's a lot of dick in this movie.
It's not like heavy dick. It's like, it's hang down dick. It's
yeah.
like, sloppy dicks.
Just there floating about, sloppy,
but
dangling
in all
dongs.
fairness, they do vagina and boobies every once in a while.
Yeah.
Very, very few compared to the penis.
But they're there, and it's all old lady boobies too.
You know,
because that's all that he wants. God, there's so many like weird, unsettling vibes in this movie. But this is one of those movies that like you could recut and make it like they already cut it, made it R-rated, and made an R rating version. They could definitely cut this down and make a PG rating version.
Yeah, because the original release, it was X-rated, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the only X-rated movies to ever exist.
Yeah, that
X-rating.
Deep Throat.
Deep Throat was XXX.
Oh, okay.
But very culturally significant. They show that down in the Studs Theater on Santa Monica.
If it wasn't for Deep Throat, there would be no Midnight Cowboy, right? Because wasn't Deep Throat before Midnight Cowboy?
I think Deep Throat was after. Let's look that up. Let's look to Wikipedia for this. Deep Throat, not Deep Throat.
Deep Throat was my favorite. Actually,
Deep Throat. Man, that's what my favorite segment of people to follow on Instagram is Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts.
I love those Deep Throats. Deep Throat is an American pornographic film from 1972.
Oh wow! So that's crazy.
So it's the reverse. It's one of the first pornographic films to feature a plot. Midnight Cowboy, a plot with pornographic elements.
Yeah, and
quite a difference.
Plus, with the outrage about Deep Throat,
there's a lot of outrage about Deep Throat. A lot of I can't. And that's the thing. I don't see outrage about
Midnight
Cowboy. In all of the stuff that I've been reading and all the reviews, everybody says it's very good.
The difference between art and porn.
This is definitely, I mean, where the line is not. There's no line here because this is definitely not porn. But art, man, this art for art's sake is just as masturbatory as porn is.
Yeah. Oh,
if you're really
time.
getting into it.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was saying. Okay, Ghost Story. Don't watch it unless you want to be super pissed off because the whole premise of the movie is a guy gets killed in a car accident, I think, or he dies somehow. He dies young, and then his ghost haunts his wife, his house, and his wife. And the ghost is literally just a sheet, like a Charlie Brown cutout sheet with eye holes. And there's a scene in the middle of the movie, and it's a short movie. It's probably, I don't think it's any longer than 80 minutes. But there's a scene in the middle of the movie where it has this guy, and they're throwing a party at this house after it's already been haunted. And he goes, it's just bullshit. Like we're putting out art, but none of it matters. And I'm like, oh, this is your thesis of the fucking movie, isn't it? Oh, you goddamn con artist. And then I went and because I'd seen it was like, everybody was like, oh, this is the talk of Sundance. This is at Cannes. It's doing super. Everybody wants to go see this. You should definitely go see this. And I went and said, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. It's one of the most masturbatory experiences I've ever had that didn't end in me coming. It was awful.
That's that whole, the exit from the gift shop, the Banksy movie.
Yes.
I think that's pretty much what that is where somebody says something, like somebody important says it's good, and then other people trickle down and say it's good.
Man, see, I wish you had told me that you felt that way about Exit Through the Gift Shop.
I loved Exit Through the Gift Shop.
I loved Exit Through the Gift Shop.
It really opens your eyes up to what our society is.
God, Exit Through the Gift Shop is one of those movies that really, it does pull the veil back on art for art's sake. And I think that it's a movie that everybody should see. In fact, I was going to ask for we start closing things out now by asking for, since you were disappointed by this movie, unfortunately, what is a movie that you would recommend? But Exit Through the Gift Shop's up there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I bet if you're going to talk about movies that a lot of people don't know about.
Tell me.
I'd say Russell Crowe's Romper Stomper, his first movie, it's just really...
I've never even heard of that.
Romper Stomper. It's a really good movie. It's like an original American History X. So it was 80s, Russell Crowe, his first movie, obviously, and just a really good plot and delivered throughout the whole movie. There's no, it's not too scattered. They don't try to get too, artsy or whatever we're talking about. They just deliver a good movie.
Gotcha.
That's one of them. And then King of the Bronx with what's his name? God, Jon Voight. Not Jon Voight, but thinking of the guy they all do the impression from for Saturday Night Live.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken. Kings of New York. That's another great one.
Oh man, King of the Bronx or Kings of New York?
King of Bronx. I can't remember.
Is that Scorsese? It sounds like
it is Scorsese.
Movie. I mean.
Those are two movies that my dad actually let me watch as a younger kid.
Wow!
But he would actually watch the movies first, and then he would edit it. Like he would fast forward through parts we weren't able to watch. So we'd get
See, my parents only did that with Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the Castle Anthrax scene because they didn't want to hear me getting heard about blowjobs.
That's one of my all-time favorite. Any Monty Python movie is my all-time favorite. I think Graham Chapman is the greatest comedic actor of all
Oh,
time.
he's great. I remember I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail when I was like 11. Then I watched Monty Python and Life of Brian when I was like 13.
That's my
On a drive.
Life of Brian has so many great lines.
So good. Yeah, I think this movie, it's definitely worth a watch. If you can find it. It's not on HBO anymore, which is a shame. I had to go download it illegally. Sorry, MPAA. I would download a car, and I will download a movie off the internet illegally. But it's worth it. I mean, it's in the National Film Registry for a good reason, and it won Best Picture for a good reason, but I don't think that it is it's a groundbreaking movie, but now you can see the age of it, and you can see that there are other movies that have taken the ground broken by Midnight Cowboy and churned it over and made something better with it. I think Scorsese owes a lot to Midnight Cowboy. I think that Scarface owes a lot to Midnight Cowboy. And I think that Holes owes a lot to Midnight Cowboy, because if that movie didn't exist, look, if Midnight Cowboy didn't exist, we wouldn't have Jon Voight playing future Joe Buck in Holes. Then we wouldn't have Shia LaBeouf as a film actor, and we wouldn't have Shia LaBeouf's entire cinematic career.
Yeah.
And where would we be if Shia LaBeouf wasn't a movie star?
And also, we wouldn't probably have Rain Man, because if you didn't notice in that movie, his character was very much Rain Man-y. He was very like,
Oh yeah,
he was kind of mentally challenged, and that led to
he was just his mental challenge was being
drug
Italian.
abuse, drug abuse in Italian.
I was just it's a real noxious cocktail being an Italian addict. Oof.
The Christopher Walken film was King of New York, and that's what I was thinking of.
Gotcha.
It's so good. It's such a good movie.
Well, definitely check those out, folks. And folks, if you're listening, please check out my guest's other work. Where can they find you on the internet?
Eric Oligny on everything. EricOligny. You can find me anywhere on that. Periscope, Facebook, Instagram. You know the drill.
Cool. Thanks for coming on today, dude.
Thank you, man. This was very fun. I always love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thanks for making me watch Midnight Cowboy. Oh, by the way, shout out to this is weird. The producer of Midnight Cowboy, one of the EPs, is a graduate of my college that I went to. So we're both alums together.
Connections, yes.
Yes, we are making it happen. I am available on the internet at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. Leave a rating, subscribe, leave a review. We're in this new format. We're trying to jazz things up and climb those charts, so leave a rating. And if you do, maybe I'll start reading some on the air, and we'll see what we can do here. 5 stars, yes.
You got it.
Thank you so much. This has been Blockbusting. Guys, go see something good for a change.